was talking to someone quite a while ago, but I just got to thinking about this again. They had said, aren't things so much easier nowadays? Aren't things so much better nowadays? And they pointed at the family. Isn't the household so much better? Because now, back when I was growing up, I'm still quoting what they said, or still not quoting, but still sort of saying what they had said. Back when I grew up, we only had, one small house, and it only had a few bedrooms, and some siblings were sharing a bedroom, that kind of stuff. And we had a small garage, if even a garage, and we had one vehicle, maybe two vehicles, but usually one vehicle. And if we did have two, the other one wasn't in the best shape, that kind of stuff. And we didn't have all these extra things, all these recreational things. We didn't have your ATVs or your boats, your campers, that kind of stuff. And isn't it so much better nowadays? We had one TV, and we didn't have a ton of stuff in our house. The house we lived in the 80s, and it looked like it was still from the 60s or 70s. Aren't we so much better off now? My reply to that is, okay, let's think about that. 34 years ago, look at what we have now. Look at what you're doing now. 30 to 40 years ago, it was one parent worked. One parent went to work. Usually the husband, the father, but one parent went to work. All right? And you guys got by. So then, because one parent went to work, the other parent was at home, and they were able to be at home. They were able to get meals together, meals ready, so everyone could eat when they were off school, or if they homeschooled. And when the working parent came home, they were able to eat when they got home, that kind of stuff. And then they worked on, getting leftovers together, and then working on the meal the next day. They also were available for homeschooling or for helping out, doing anything that the child might be struggling with. Education-wise, they're around. And the parent who was at home was there for cleaning of the home, was there for any sort of upgrade or update. Nothing huge, but if they needed to, something was leaking, they could fix that, or they could get someone involved to come over to fix it while they were home. And so with that, it seemed a little better, at least from the family aspect of things, because you did have a dinner table that everyone sat around at for the most time, every day, for the most part, and you sat around and you ate dinner, and then you shared the day's events, what was on everyone's mind, maybe something that came up last week, or something they're looking forward to the next week or the week after. Just sharing that family time. Okay? And then with that, they didn't have any huge homes, they didn't have any other huge items, but they spent the time together as a family. And you had children playing outside all the time after school, and on the weekends, the children got together and they just played outside. They played tag, they ran around the neighborhood, if you had a neighborhood, or they played on the farm, or they played, in the development, or they played wherever. They figured it out. And they stuck together, and they played together, and then they knew, when you heard your parents shouting to come home for dinner, or you heard the dinner bell, or whatever the case was. So with that, if you look to nowadays, yes, you have larger homes, you have multiple vehicles, nicer vehicles, more up-to-date vehicles, and you have some of those recreational things like a boat, ATV, a snowmobile, that kind of stuff. And then what? Now children have smartphones. So there's not really children playing outside. And if they are outside, they're not hanging around playing together. They're on their smartphones. Not being in the moment with who they're around. Just checking out in the moment with whoever else is digital. Right? So there's that. Now you have two parents working. If you do have two parents in the home, sometimes it's a one-parent home. But they're working both to afford the stuff. And with that, because everyone's busy, then there's no home cooked meals. There's no sitting down at the family dinner table and eating and sharing things. It's fast food. Fast food dinner the next day, fast food dinner the next day, so on and so forth. And along with that, all these sports, these organized sports that they have, it's just so bad. I mean, it just takes up so much time. So both parents are working, and then with all the sports coordinated the way they are and how much demand they have, the children for these sports, it's not about fun. It's not about the activity. It's about the competition. And the children are suffering throughout this. So are the parents. So also, because they're buying all this stuff and have these children in all these sports, which costs a lot of money. I mean, for the gear and for the sign-up fee and for whatever else they need. If they're playing hockey, they pay for ice time, weekly ice time, that kind of stuff. Do they have much for savings? And I don't mean a bank account. I mean any asset kind of stuff. The people from the 60s, 70s, yes, they were humble. They had smaller homes, but maybe their homes paid off within 20 years, 15 years, and their vehicles are paid off. Maybe because they've been looking, maybe they invested in some other property or they invested in something else that they wanted, and then years down the road, that's going to come to, it's going to flourish, they're going to benefit from it. And the parents will, to some degree, but the children will be the major beneficiaries of that, because the parents have buckled down and set back, and they've been thinking about this. What is it going to take for us to get through this, to live through this, be self-sufficient, and then what else can I hand down to my children so then they're in a better place? There's no thought of that anymore. You don't see it anymore. It's all about the then and now. It's like, oh yeah, I get an old, we'll say boat, or I get an old ATV, an old snowmobile, or an old vehicle. Yeah, I bought this a couple years ago, but I want this truck. I bought this a couple years ago, but I want this now. I bought this a couple years back, so it's dated, it's old. The new one has so much more things to offer. That's when I get. And once you buy those vehicles, I mean, you lose half the value as soon as you drive it off the lot, especially if you're buying, brand new. And same with all this other stuff. I mean, every room in the household has a TV, and most of them have large TVs, and there's usually one or two rooms that have like theater-sized TVs. So what is that saying? That's saying, well, that pretty much is the things that are going to be going on in that house. I mean, if there's that much of a focus on television, there's not that much focus on the family or that much focus on, anything else that might be of substance, good substance. So I'm talking about this. So we got the fast food stuff, and so we're out of naturally cooked, home cooked meals stuff. Gardening is definitely all the kid question. Community is definitely all the question. I mean, nowadays a lot of people don't know their neighbors, even though they may live in a development and they live right next door to two of them, one on each side, and maybe one behind them. No one really knows anyone's names for the most part. I'm not saying all, but a majority of them are like that. When, back in the day, 60s, 70s, you could, have acreage, and then your neighbor might be quite a ways away, but you would know who they are and who they are. Another person a mile down the road, or maybe a half mile down the road, you would know who they are, and maybe who their sister or brother is, that kind of stuff. So I'm just saying this because I want people to look at that. It's like not like we have so much more, things are so much better, because they're not. They're really not. And think about it. Think about it. Would you rather be working and have your wife or husband be at home, be there so the kids can get up whenever in the summer and go out and play all summer, and then when you're home, you come home from work, the kids have been playing all day because your wife or husband has been home with them, and maybe they've been around to be able to help out. Maybe you have a garden, the children are there to help out with the garden, at times, that kind of stuff throughout the weekday, because it's a one parent working from the home. And you can get by, you can do it. And that's how it used to be before. Inflation is just rampant, and things cost so much from an aspect of you don't hold any wealth. The purchasing power that we have nowadays with this dollar, it's just ridiculous. It's laughable. So on that note of a one-home parent, a one-word parent, you have a parent at home, there's no daycare you need. You don't have to pay for daycare. You don't have to rush to give the kids to someone else before they go to school to be around someone else and more people then to watch them, babysit them until they get off school. Then they go back to daycare, back to someone else or multiple other people to be babysat until you pick them up from work. There was none of that. I mean, doesn't it sound better if you have a one working parent and the other parent can be here, even if you have them in government school, they can be here before school, send them off to school. When the kids get off of school, they can come home to that parent, and there's not shoving them off to strangers at daycare, or whether it's strangers or you know them, send them off for a daycare before school, to government school, to go there around these other people, to babysit them for 8 hours, to come back to a daycare, to be babysat for an hour or two until they get picked up and the parents are done working. I mean, really, who's raising these children then? Because you have them, you pick them up, you bring them home, there's enough time maybe for a quick fast food dinner on your way to the game, that if they're in gymnastics, they're in soccer, they're in football, they're in volleyball, whatever it is. And so you're eating, you're jamming fast, they haven't done any more homework. And then they get done for the evening, then you get home, then they got homework, a couple hours of homework, maybe an hour of homework, that you gotta get done before they get up in the morning, because you got up early to get them off to daycare, because you gotta get to work early, so they have to be dropped off early, watched by these people until they go to government school for 8 hours to come back to this daycare until you can pick them up, and then have maybe an hour, 3 hours tops with them, and that is fast food, sports, and I buy, good night, see you in the morning, and that's it. You have no interaction with your children. None. So is there a way to solve that? Yeah, there's probably a way to solve it. It might be tough, and I think we might get to that forcibly, just because of what the government's been doing with everything, but is there a way to slow things down? Absolutely. I think cutting sports out, maybe have them in one sport, or just cut them all out completely. Think of the time you would have if you're not running on the weekends for the sport, if you're not running to all the practices for a sport. And is it going to fix you home cooked meals, that kind of stuff? No, but can you figure that out? Maybe on the weekends you can get some home cooked meals together, so then you can just get them warmed up throughout the week so you can eat together as a family. Maybe, I don't know, I'm just trying to throw things out there. But just think about that, and then think about, what is better? Is it better that I have this snowmobile, or is it better that I have this ATV, or is it better that we have this boat? Or would it be better if I wasn't in these sports, or I wasn't in all these sports, or maybe both my parents didn't work, and one only did, and the other one was home with us, or me, and we're able to get some more things done, and we're able to connect better, and that kind of stuff. Because once your children are out of your house, they're out. They're not coming back. I mean, usually that's just the way it goes. And that's not a sad thing, because that's how it goes. They need to grow up. They need to start their own lives. But it might be something, hopefully it's not, but it might be something you look back and say, hey, I missed my children growing up because I wasn't around and they weren't around. They were at daycare. They were at school. Then they were back to daycare. We saw them for maybe an hour and a half, Monday through Friday. And then the weekends, we're running to try to get stuff done we couldn't get done during the week. And maybe they had another game. Or maybe both of my children had games. So there goes the weekend, and then we had church on Sunday, which, yeah, you could get together. Church on Sunday, it's a little slower there, but that's not much. I mean, that's an hour out of how many hours throughout the week that you're not connecting. And I'm not saying this to say, hey, I have the solution. I'm not saying this to say, hey, what you're doing is wrong. I'm just saying this to get people to thinking. Think maybe there's something you can do to fix everything. Maybe there's something you could do to help your situation, whether it's so minute or whether it's pretty large. I don't know. It got me thinking, and I just pondered it here and there, and I thought I should just do a video and get people thinking. There's just something that I feel like I want to change. If you don't, you don't. I mean, more power to you. But if you do, maybe this video pushes you that way. Just think about your situation. As always, if you like this, hit the like, share, subscribe, that kind of stuff. And stay vigilant. Protect yourself, protect your family, protect your health, and protect your wealth.